questions for Dylan and Patrick, starting upstairs here at Rogers Place. Derek Van Diest, Post Media, go ahead.
Hey guys, Dylan, just want to start with you. I just want to ask you about in game one, it looked like you guys had trouble with their size and the way they went to the net. But today you guys seem to handle them better in that regard. I guess what was it about today that you guys were able to handle their size and some of their heavy guys coming at you pretty hard?
I think we just played a better team game today. The first two periods were pretty good, and then kind of sat back a little too much in the third. I thought we did a good job of holding their big forwards up coming into the zone and giving our D a bit more time. So got to continue to do that and be ready for next game.
And Patrick, I want to ask you about that overtime. It looked like you guys had a lot of chances and you carried the play for a bit of that overtime. It's just a matter of not being able to bear an opportunity when you had one.
Yeah, I think we had a couple looks there. Cuckoo went in on the one. There was a puck laying there I probably could have got to. Stromer rang one off the bar there. Obviously, it would have been nice to see something go in there in overtime, but that's the way it goes, I guess. And would have been nice to have a better third period too, especially after we came back to tie it up and had a lot of momentum. Would have been nice to keep that momentum, especially early in the third going.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, for Patrick. Yes.
No, I mean, I thought we were playing really well the first two periods, and you know, for whatever reason, it just seemed like they came out better than us in the third. I don't know if we thought it was going to be a little bit easier than it was, especially after we tied it up, but they're a good team. They're going to fight back, and they carried the play for most of that third, so we didn't really generate much.
Carter Baum, go ahead.
I've been fortunate to play on some amazing teams, and I guess when you have some deep runs in the playoffs, you're going to have the chance to put up numbers and points when you're an offensive guy. So I appreciate those teams I've been on. Trying to do the same thing here with this team. I think we got a good group. I think we've proved it all year when we've been in tough situations, faced some adversity, that we're able to come back and we're able to work our way out of it. So this is a team that isn't going to give up, and you know, I think we're in a situation here where we're coming into a day off and then a back-to-back situation, and we feel we got a young team with some fresh legs. So hopefully that can be used to our advantage.
Take one more. Ben Pope, Chicago Sun-Times.
I thought they were good. Happy. Always fun getting the chance to play with Stromer and Brinks. I think we got some good chemistry, and we can make some plays out there. So it's nice to capitalize on the shift we got there in the second. And I think Kajula brings a lot of energy. You know, he's a guy that might not put up some big numbers, but you know, you look at that first goal, he could be the main reason we score, because he middle lane drives, goes to the net, creates some havoc, and then a couple guys are on him, and Kirby's wide open back door. So he's a fun guy to play with as well, because he creates space. He's good on the forecheck. He's not afraid to finish his checks for a smaller guy. So I thought for the most part it worked to our advantage tonight.
Thanks, guys. We'll be joined shortly by Dominic Kubalik and Kirby Dock. Start taking questions for Dominic and Kirby upstairs at Rogers Place. Derek Van Diest, go ahead.
Kirby, just want to ask you about game two now. It looked like they're still a pretty heavy team, but it looked like you guys handled their size a little bit better. What did you guys do tonight that maybe you didn't do in game one?
I think we did a better job of holding up and taking away their time and space. And obviously they got that heavy fourth line that likes to throw their body around. And I think we did a good job of being aware when they're on the ice. So obviously they still got their licks in. I think we have to do a better job of being smart and protecting ourselves, but playing with more speed. The more speed we play with, I feel like our team is going to have those chances off the rush. And once we find the back of the net more times, I think we'll be all right.
And Dominique, I know it's up, you know, the overtime loss is tough, but you guys hit a crossbar. You had some chances. Can you take some positives from that overtime that, you know, you just didn't get a bounce when you needed one?
Oh well, right now it's tough to be positive, obviously, but I'm pretty sure that we had some positive things in that game. We came back from 2-0, so that's I think that's one of the bigger things. And I think like Kirby said, we did a better job that with handling their forecheck. So yeah, we just got to stick with it, and we're already excited for the next game.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Take some questions from our callers on Zoom, starting with Charlie Rumeliotis. Go ahead and unmute your mic.
For Kirby, obviously falling behind 2-0 to a team like Vegas isn't really what you guys had hoped for, but I'm sure you guys knew that this series would be difficult. How do you guys regroup mentally just going into the weekend with back-to-back games?
Yeah, obviously it's a different team than Edmonton was, and they come at you in waves, and we did a good job of weathering the storm tonight. But we got to find a way to get more pucks towards the net and get our shots through and bang a few in, because they're pretty good at collapsing down low. And once we find our groove, I think we'll be all right as a group. But it's tough to swallow this one right now. Obviously, we had chances in overtime to put the game away, but it's not the way it went. So we got to regroup fast here, because these next two games are coming up quick.
Ben Pope, Chicago Sun-Times.
Yeah, for Dominic, you guys were outshot 23-7 in the third period in overtime. What changed from the second intermission on that made things a bit tougher for you?
Well, I think they're doing a pretty good job, like in their zone, especially that they're pretty tight. It's hard. Like, we knew it's going to be a battle, but you still got to find a way to to get the shots through and get those rebounds and get some greasy goals, because that's the time when you build the momentum for a game. So you just got to be better with that. Yeah.
Take a couple more for the guys. Phil Thompson, Chicago Tribune. Go ahead.
Kirby, can you talk about getting your first career playoff goal? And also, if you saw some things that you could do on Leonard, or was it just that the lanes were clear for you guys?
Yeah, it's obviously it's nice to get your first one out of the way. But at the same time, it sucks sitting here after an overtime loss like that. Yeah, obviously Lenny's a good goalie, and we just got to find ways to get more pucks towards the net and find those rebounds. I mean, he's big and he's very good athletically, and we obviously knew it was going to be a tough test shooting against him. But as a group, I think we did a better job today getting our shots through and driving to the net and creating more havoc in front of them. But I think we need to do a little bit better job to help our team have more success in that department.
Take one more. Zdeněk Matyovský. Go ahead. Zdeněk, go ahead and unmute your mic. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Chicago Blackhawks head coach Jeremy Colleton.
I mean, it was a tight game, obviously. I really liked our first two periods. Thought we showed a lot of character to battle back a couple different times. I think, they're a really good third period team, and they had a hard push, and we just would like to see us handle it a little better, get some more zone time, a little more pushback with our game to take the pressure off. But, Corey made some big saves, got to overtime. We had a couple chances. So disappointing, because I thought the guys played hard, but at the same time, we need to keep getting better, keep improving. We're not out of it. We're going to regroup and come back raring to go for game 3.
Start taking questions upstairs at Rogers Place. Derek Van Diest, go ahead.
Yeah, Jeremy, you guys seem to handle their size in front of the net and on the forecheck a little better than you did in game 1. What was it about today that you guys were able to kind of, handle that? Because they're a big, heavy, strong team, and you guys seem to be able to play with them tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we know the challenge. They got a lot of size, and they want to play sort of that half-court game in the offensive zone. And we've got to find a way to get stops. And then when we win the puck, being clean to get out. I think it's important not to give them extra chances to have zone time. So, when we were clean with it and able to advance it and drive it deep into the offensive zone, get a forecheck going, get zone time, I think we had some success. But as the game, certainly in the third period, we had a little bit tougher time with that, and I thought we were a little passive, which we're playing hard. They're a really good team, but we need to keep improving.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Take a few questions on Zoom for Coach Colleton. Ben Pope, Chicago Sun-Times. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jeremy, you mixed up the lines a whole lot. What was the motivation behind that, and specifically for scratching Boquist and putting Carlson in?
Yeah, we're trying to get better. So trying to use the group we have. I've got a lot of confidence in Carlson. I think he played really well. The time he got in the regular season, he's been outside looking in here, and we're hoping Bokey with a day of rest can come back potentially with another level for us. So then up front, we're just trying to manufacture a little more offense. I thought we had a little bit of success there. Again, we weren't unhappy with how we played in game one. I thought we were good for a lot of the game, and same thing tonight. We just got to find a way to sustain it for the full 60, because they're a really good team and they make you work every time you're out there. So.
Scott King, next question.
Hi, Jeremy. It seemed like some of the guys on that last shift with the overtime goal kind of had a long shift. You kind of chalk that up to fatigue at that point?
Well, I mean, the long change. It's in the second period, we were able to catch them a couple times. They were able to catch us. It's overtime. It's the same thing. So we weren't able to get the puck in and get it deep and get our D off, and so they end up with tired guys trying to defend, and we had a breakdown.
Scott Powers, go ahead.
Jeremy, it looked like on 3 of the goals there were a couple of breakdowns around the net. What did you see on some of the goals against tonight?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they're a good team in OZP. They make you work, and obviously we want to hold the slot a little bit longer if we're not sure. They got some good chances out of that for most of the game. We're pretty good. Third period, they generated a little bit more.
Take a couple more for Coach Greg Wyshynski. Go ahead.
Thanks a lot. Hey, Jeremy, this is a really good hockey team. Like you said, this was a real opportunity to change the trajectory of the series to get an OT win here. How confident are you that the young guys are going to be able to bounce back from missing out on an opportunity like this?
Oh, we need to. It's a chance to show our character. They're, as you said, they're an excellent team. Our first seed for a reason. So it's a big challenge for our guys, but I think we've responded. They've played hard. We've done a lot of good things. We've been right with them both games. We got to keep improving. As you said, we have a lot of young guys. You got to think that we're going to get better here as the series goes on. We got a back-to-back coming up, and we got to take the day tomorrow to regroup and then come with our best effort of the series and find a way to win a hockey game.
Charlie Rumeliotis, go ahead.
Hey, Jeremy, you guys have hit 10 posts in 6 games. Do you feel like it's only a matter of time before some of those start going in? And how do you reassure the guys that if you keep having that first mentality that, that the luck may change?
Yeah, we've had our chances. It's sometimes it's like that. And the key is, how long can we stick with it? How long can we be persistent when you face adversity? We faced some adversity here over the first couple games, and do we have the character to overcome it? And it's an opportunity for our guys to, I think you play all year to be in these games. So now we're here and we face some adversity. So what? Just keep playing and believe in what we're doing and believe in the guys in the room, and we're going to give them a run.
Thank you, Coach.
reset, rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.
The Rewind Sports 60.
Sports 60. From the city of big shoulders, the jewel of the Midwest, comes a sports show that's one of a kind. From iconic players to iconic stadiums to iconic teams, this is my kind of town. Chicago! And the Rewind Sports 60 is my kind of show. From Air Jordan to Sweetness to Papa Bear Hallis, this city works hard, but plays even harder. Danny Carlino and Jerry Riles bring you the Rewind Sports 60. Live. The Rewind Sports 60 starts now.
Welcome everybody to the Rewind Sports 60. I am your host, Lauren Cox, and we are live at the WCPT studios, 8:20 a.m. on a beautiful evening in Chicago. It's about 90 degrees. It's a beautiful evening, and sports are back in full effect, and so we're going to get right to it. And we also want you guys to join us. Give us a call, join in on the fastest hour in sports, and give us your take on all the things that are going on this week in sports. Our number is 773-763-9278, and we're also streaming live on Facebook at the Rewind Sports 60. So let's get right into it, guys. I'm going to start with the marvelous one, Dan Marver. Dan, the Cubs are doing great.
Oh yeah.
Hawks are in the playoffs. I know this was a good week for you.
It was a really good week. Now of course, don't forget the WNBA, the Sky, are in first place.
See, absolutely, yes.
And honestly, I've watched the hockey, the basketball, and the baseball with the men. Now, bear in mind, the Cardinals have played 5 games.
Okay.
There's 47 days left until September 27th, which is the last day of the season, which means they have 55 games left to play. So this is getting a little out of control. If there's any more illness, I don't see how they can do this unless they do it by percentages. And I've loved the hockey, of course. I'm a big Blackhawk fan, so therefore I've enjoyed the fact that they advanced into the playoffs. And I think it was a much better setup to have a play, immediately start the playoffs, because the NBA right now, the 8 teams in the East are set, and essentially the 8 teams in the West are set, and they still have another week of these goofy games.
Exactly.
And then they start the playoffs in the 17th. So I'm a little disappointed in that, and I understand all the messages the players have on their backs, but I think it's a little too much in your face personally, but I understand why they're doing it.
All right, well, we definitely want to get to that. We want to dive into that a little more, but we've got to bring in the main man, my partner in crime, the amazing Jerry Riles. Jerry, what do you have to say about that? The messages are a little too much.
Yeah.
I can't see them enough.
And the crowd was stunned. The crowd was stunned. Hey, it's a little bit into my face. I can't take it too much.
I understand it, though.
It's a little bit too much in my face. I mean, Black Lives Matter, equality, we want justice. It's just too much in my face. I can't take it. Enough is enough. The marvelous one has spoken, ladies and gentlemen. Lauren, how are you? Good to see you. Let me tell you something before we get into this fastest hour in sports conversation, Lauren Cox. I'm over here, in the studio, and we're streaming live on Facebook Live. Let me tell you something. I glanced over to the monitor, and our great producer, Devin Tingle, has done an outstanding job getting us all set up here. But I look over to my left at the monitor, and I see your beautiful smile.
Thank
you. You're very photogenic. You know that?
Thank you so much, Jerry. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I'm just telling you what I see here.
Hey.
How about her parents?
Yeah.
I get it from my mama, yeah.
You look fantastic on and lady, let me tell you guys, girls, people out there, if you don't believe me, you got your smartphone. Where's my smartphone? You got your smartphone, all right? You're on your monitor, whatever the case may be. We're streaming live on Facebook. Take a look. Lauren Cox looks fantastic.
Thank
Unbelievable.
you.
And of course, the
so
marvelous
much.
one. You look marvelous as usual as well.
How can you tell?
I'm just
I look better this way than I did with the mask off.
Hey, I'm just sick and tired of looking at all this Black Lives Matter and hands up and equal justice for all and enough is enough. I'm just sick of it. I just want.
Now, don't misquote me. I said I understand it before I said that.
Oh, okay. So I didn't misquote you.
Okay, right.
Yeah, you understand. I certainly get it. Before we move on, we got a great show, Lauren, and marvelous one. I got to tell you, Lauren.
Yes.
I'm always thinking of you. Always thinking of you. Who needs to go to work to hustle for another dollar? Sorry.
Yes.
I'm always thinking about you. Marvelous, I'm thinking of you as well.
I know what you're going to say.
Sympathies.
You don't know what I'm going to say.
Yes. Are you going to talk about the mask that you never got for us?
Well, I got you a t-shirt. I got you a t-shirt. I'm going to get you a mask. Look, you see, let me tell you something. You want the t-shirt? I got the girl a t-shirt. She's like, I don't want the t-shirt. I want a mask.
Won't fit me. I need XXL.
Well, hey, Lauren, you don't want the t-shirt? I'll give it to Devin. Devin, you want the t-shirt, man?
I will cherish this t-shirt for the rest of my life. Are you kidding me?
Listen, Marvelous, I set up, and all you guys and girls out there listening, I said, I got something for you. Here's a t-shirt. I don't want the t-shirt. I want a damn mask. Here you go. Hey. Add it to your collection. Yes, we'll get you a mask. We'll get you. Well, I'm always thinking of you.
I appreciate that.
All right. Jeez. I don't even get it, man. Try to be a nice guy, and
we appreciate you, Jerry.
It's just like
we just want a mask. We want to know where our mask.
It's just like being at home. That's all.
Yeah.
And speaking of masks, I got to before we get into the fastest hour in sports conversation, I got to say thank you to the Knights of Columbus out in Wheeling, St. Joseph the Worker, Dave Vogel. They gave me a new mask. I got a mask on. If you can see, it's the Knights of Columbus. So I have to say thank you to those guys for looking out and getting the job done. And also I have to say thanks to Dan Nguyen, again, over at St. Joseph the Worker in Wheeling. I brought in a bunch of donuts.
We don't eat donuts.
What do you mean?
We don't eat donuts.
Devin, you eat donuts, don't you? Yeah, he's tempted to get one now. Mm-hmm. Paul Shavari, he eats donuts. I know Nick eats donuts. Marvelous, you eat donuts?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I'm the only one.
I had about 3 of them. That's not good for me.
Wow.
Because Lauren,
you ate my donuts.
Yeah.
You ate the ones for me.
I ate Marvelous.
I didn't even touch them all.
And that's why I had them. I only touched the ones that I put in my mouth, Marvelous. I only touched the ones I put in my mouth.
I know.
But the reason, I had to bring them in because I'm telling you, I would have been snacking. And you guys probably know me by now. I don't do a lot of working out. I don't do a lot of working out. And, when
no working out.
See?
Yeah.
See?
I've been riding a bike for the
Lauren, wait a minute. Yeah. I do some working out.
Okay.
I get up from the couch and walk into the kitchen and go to the refrigerator.
Yep. There it is.
Yeah. I get a workout in. Yeah. But I have been golfing too, and it's interesting. I went golfing, and my buddy and I, Rod Black golf course over there in the north side, Rogers Park. But we went golfing and we were paired up because it was so busy. Twosome, myself and Greg, and another couple, Chris and Stacy. Stacy's from Texas. But we were, to put together as a foursome. Here's where my mind is. Now, I asked the attendant and everything. I said, hey, man, don't have to wear this mask while I'm out on the course. He's like, no, you're good. And I'm like, okay, I'm cool.
Outside.
Yeah, it's cool. Well, but some people still. My buddy has sarcoidosis, so he wears the mask.
Oh, yeah, if you have some health issues.
So anyway, I'm like, we're on probably the 5th hole or the 6th hole, and Stacy and, Chris, we get to know them and everything, so I'm trying to be nice and a good guy or whatever. I had my hand sanitizer. But I had the Arnold Palmer
lemonade and tea.
Mm-hmm. And was something in it?
In a can? No. It's And
y'all wasn't having no fun then. But go ahead.
No, I don't drink. I don't subscribe to that.
You don't drink?
I don't drink.
I thought maybe you'd Arnold Palmer clubs.
Yeah. I had the Arnold Palmer, right? The drink, and I offered them a can, and I was handing it to them. And they're like, no, that's okay. And I was like, ding, the light bulb came on. I was like, damn it, I'm so sorry. I'm not that kind of guy. I do respect you. And I said, Corona. I said, forgive me. But that tells you and shows you where we are today.
Yeah.
It tells you and shows you where we are today, that, you know, even on the golf course, you can't extend a generous offer. Marvelous. And that's kind of bothered me.
Can't share any food or drink. Yeah.
Can't hug your loved ones.
No. Maybe you can hug them facing the same direction. I don't know.
Well, somebody asked for a COVID hug, and they actually gave a complete hug.
Okay.
I thought that was kind of cool.
And then you can do the fist bumps with your elbows, which is just
yeah.
kind of
How about
corny.
can we do with gloves a fist bump? I don't know.
Well, you can do like they do in the WNBA, and you can do the chest bump.
And you know, in New Zealand, they said that it's 100 days without any new reported cases or transmission of the coronavirus. So everybody on Twitter went crazy and said, you know, see, this is ridiculous. What's going on in America?
How many people live in New Zealand?
I know it's the population of Illinois, pretty much.
Marvelous. I mean, to the credit and looking on the positive end, you got to start somewhere, right? And how many bikers went to that rally? Was it? You heard about the rally that all these bikers went to?
And they started fighting or something?
No, it was.
This was another one.
Was it 25,000 or 250,000 or something like that?
Where?
I don't. Devin, can you look up that information when you get an opportunity?
I'm surprised. They actually almost have 5 million people in New Zealand. That's more than I thought.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I mean.
The best thing to do is
other countries around the world are controlling it a lot better than the United States. That's
well, and I don't want to get into all of this, but it's based on the leadership or lack thereof in this country. That at the end of the day, that's all it is. That it's just lack of leadership. And you know what? I heard the show before us. They talked about us. Well, they didn't talk about us, but they talked about the United States and you know, people who are still supporting what's going on in this country regarding coronavirus and COVID-19. And they said, hey man, after 6 months, if you still don't get it, I have no help. I can't help you out.
Yeah.
It's 6 months.
It's people standing firm on it too.
Yeah.
Come on now. This is ridiculous now.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's not ridiculous now.
Anybody want a drink?
There it is. Simple measures: social distancing, wearing your mask, and washing your hands.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's ridiculous. It really is. And after 6 months, if you still can't get it and don't understand, and you think that it's a joke, the smart thing to do is just to stay away from those individuals because
that's what
I mean, come on now. First of all, and I'm not trying to get into politics or any of that stuff, because by this time, I mean, it's August 9th, and if you still support this guy and believe what he, stands for, there's nothing that I can say or whatever. But my point being is that he forewarned you, even before the elections, of what type of individual that he is, what his mentality is, what his viewpoints are as far as just his moral standards.
What did Maya Angelou say? When someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Exactly.
He showed it.
So he showed it, and people still accepted him and embraced him. Okay, so now he gets into the White House, and then he starts his antics as far as the different things that he's doing, whether it's insulting, other candidates, where it's insulting, people who have passed away, whatever the case may be. But when you get to the point where this guy is telling you to drink disinfected, and he tells you to drink disinfected, he tells you that this is just a hoax put up by the Democrats, he tells you that before Easter that this virus is going to be gone, it's like a miracle, all of these shenanigans, and then his administration tell you, oh, it's just a joke. Oh, he's just joking about that. Let me tell you something. August 9th, I swear to you, I don't pay attention, I don't watch, I don't listen. Because if you don't know that this guy is full of crap,
and now he's trying to screw the postal system.
This
is just outrageous.
If you believe this guy and you support this guy after everything that's happened in this country and what's going on in this world, there's nothing that I can do for you. There's nothing that I can say to you. And it's just disappointing. And I don't mean to get on my soapbox, but that's what happened.
Hey, Jerry, of course, I'd rather stick to sports, but it's 86 days on Election Day, and the people will decide. So that's
if we have an election, Marvelous.
Yeah, you'll have an election.
I don't know about that, because this guy in office...
No question in my mind.
Well, we may not have it when we normally have it. When is it? The first Tuesday in November?
November 3rd, 86 days from today.
Yeah. If we have an election then, I'll eat your hat.
Okay, I'll bring my hat. Because
I don't put anything past this guy. Yeah, I don't put anything past this guy.
You'll have an election, but you may not have the results. I'll give you that.
Well, we don't know that.
Well, when he gets kicked out, he said he ain't leaving. So, hey, we got more drama to come.
Well, that's what I'm telling you.
Never heard that.
I'm telling you. Marvin's went,
You said you never heard that?
He said he's not leaving. He himself
Wait a minute. Now, are you surprised? Is this something outrageous that he wouldn't say? Come on,
he could have said it, but I didn't hear it.
Well,
let's just say for
let me
sure.
tell you something. I don't put
He
anything
ain't going
past
down
the
without
guy.
a fight.
Right, exactly. I don't put anything
I
past
don't
this
see him
dude.
just say, okay, bow out, please.
86 days.
Well, I don't put anything past this dude, and I tell you, there's one dude on our line who is phenomenal. He's outstanding, does a fantastic job covering your Chicago Cubs, and he's on our TR60 hotline, and he's definitely a friend of the program. He's none other than Gordon Whitmire of NBC Sports Chicago, joining us to talk some Cub baseball, Major League Baseball. Gordon, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
You know what? I'm doing okay. Thank you so very much for asking. I was having a fantastic day. I was enjoying a fantastic Sunday. I wish you were here because I brought donuts in for everyone. But we get it. Yeah, I brought the donuts in, man, and I wish you were here to share some of that because I can't eat it all because I don't work out, and I'm gonna expand if I. I can't do it.
I can't tell you how much I wish I was there.
Well, hopefully we get through this, man. We can definitely have you in studio, and I'll bring all the donuts and coffee and anything else you want, man. But we certainly appreciate you taking some time out on this Sunday and joining us to talk some baseball. And we thought it was going to be Sunday night baseball between the Chicago Cubs and the St. Louis Cardinals down in St. Louis. But there's a flip flop, and ESPN is starting to recognize the boys on the South side, of course, the Chicago White Sox, who will be playing Sunday night baseball. So at least Chicago will get a dose of one of their teams. But as far as the Cubs are concerned, man, first of all, kudos to Theo Epstein, Jed Hoyer, and the entire team over there, from the front office down to the trainer, down to the guy sweeping up everything and disinfecting everything, because the Cubs are pretty much the best team in baseball, probably the best team in sports, because they have zero positive testing regarding, as far as results, the COVID and Corona, and they're in first place pretty much in the National League Central Division. So it seems like they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing on the field and off the field, man. But they get penalized because they can't play. Go ahead.
I'm glad you put it the way you did, because best team in baseball, maybe best team in sports, at the most important thing of all in sports this year, containing the coronavirus, avoiding it. It's look, every team in every sport that's trying to play is walking through a minefield when it comes to the health risk, and the Cubs have done a pretty good job of sniffing this stuff out and kind of putting protocols together that far exceeded anything the league put together. And then even more impressive, and this is by far the most impressive thing to me, they got buy-in all the way through the clubhouse. Young guys, older guys from different parts of the country, different parts of the world, who maybe brought in different attitudes about this virus, and yet they've got a singular attitude within that clubhouse. And you don't have to go any farther than what happened last night in Chicago to know just how easy it is for this stuff to come apart because of one guy. We just found out news today that Zach Plesac of the Cleveland Indians was out last night with friends, and the club sent him home to Cleveland because he broke the rules, violated the protocols, and it'll be interesting to see if MLB does anything about that, because supposedly there was a stricter sort of ethos involved in this last week. A lot, supposedly more punishment was at stake with some of these protocols starting this past week. So it'll be interesting to see if Zach Plesac gets punished by the league for that. But he's been sent home and isolated from the rest of his team. One guy, one night after pitching, a 25-year-old kid hanging out with friends. It's something as simple as that can start an outbreak in your whole team. I mean, just ask the Cardinals.
Hey, Gord, what do you think? I saw something, an article somebody wrote, this is Dan, about there being a penalty for teams that get the COVID and forfeiting games even. Do you advocate that?
Well, it depends. That's so hard to really... I mean, how good are your investigators, right? How good is your evidence? Are you really going to prove that... the Marlins admitted it, that they maybe broke some protocols and regretted it. The Cardinals didn't. All the evidence suggests that the Cardinals got this from one guy who was known outside the team, a trusted guy, but outside the testing policies, who showed no symptoms, something a trainer, nutritionist type of a guy who was around a couple of the players and later tested positive, and it was this is what their contact tracing showed. And all those rumors about casinos and going out turned out to be just that, rumors. As it was reported out and fully vetted, those reports turned out to be wrong. So they did everything right and still wound up with this. And yet there were still reports out there that were suggesting they did things wrong. So I don't know how you as a league effectively punish a whole team, especially when the team attempts to do everything right. The bigger question I have is, if you've got this widespread enough with a team and they're going to lose enough games, I mean, we're looking at 2 weeks between games for the Cardinals. I mean, you get to a point where their season starts to lose a chance of becoming viable compared to the rest of the teams. Can you drop a team from the league just because they can't get all their games in, or do you somehow put them, hold them to a different standard when it comes to the number of games they can play? I don't know. I don't know what the answer to any of this stuff is. And what happens if a third team has an outbreak that keeps them sidelined for a week or more and affects the teams on their schedule in turn? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to this stuff. It's coming home to roost, though.
Well, I said earlier, the Cardinals have played 5 games, and they have 47 days. They'll have to play the remaining 55 now.
Exactly. And the next 2 days, the next 3 days are wiped off the schedule now, too, because of the Pirates series coming up. So it's something like
44 days for 58, 55.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, how do you do that? And I mean, the easy answer is you play these 7-inning doubleheaders, but how much higher risk is that? When you're exposing yourself that much time at the ballpark, and how much injury risk are you putting the team at when you're going to try to schedule that many doubleheaders at really an unprecedented rate?
Yeah,
I don't know what the answer is.
You know what? I think there's only one answer. We're on with Gordon Whitmire of the NBC Sports Chicago Cub Insider, joining us on the Rewind Sports 60 on our Terra 60 hotline. Honestly, there's only one answer, and that answer is just shut it down and stop it. That's the answer. And I understand once you get started and on paper you map everything out and you lay everything out and say, okay, if everyone follows protocol and do what they're expected to do and do what they should do, we should be able to play 60 games in 66 days and get to the playoffs and the World Series. But unfortunately, we live in a world, we live in a society that's divided. There are some people that are following protocol and believe and say, hey, I got to do everything in my power to make sure I abide by it. And then as you talked about with Plesac, say, hey, you know what? I'm a young 25-year-old some kid. I'm throwing lights out. The guy's pitching his brains out. He's unbelievable. And he's like, hey, I'm on cloud 9. I'm living the dream. And so he feels he can go out and hang out with his buddies. And that's the unfortunate situation, because as we see with the Marlins and we see with the St. Louis Cardinals, people aren't all in the same. They're not all in this together, Gordon. And now we see the problem that we're seeing, and we hear the commissioner last week say we knew it was just a bunch of, mumbo jumbo, but he said, hey, we're going to shut this thing down if you guys don't get it right. And they still haven't gotten it right, and they're still trying to trudge through. But in my opinion, at the end of the day, you got to shut it all down if you want people to stay healthy, because there's a bigger issue down the road, in my opinion, if you continue to try to see if you can get through this thing.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, I can't sit here and say, well, you're just flat wrong, because there's been an ethical question to this from the beginning. We know that the reason that they're playing, it's because it's a $10 billion industry, and they're trying to recoup as much of their losses as they can. And we know that $1 billion is at stake if they can get to the postseason and get that finished. So we know that's why they're playing.
Right.
And if we didn't know that back when they started talking about restarting, we learned it real quick when they were negotiating with the players' union over how much they were going to pay them. So we know that's why. And is there a compromise in there? Because the other side of it is a lot of these players truly do want to play. I mean, they're getting a fraction. So some of the guys that have plenty of money already, they still want to play. So, and they're adult professionals that are making their own level of informed decisions. So they have that right to, unlike say a college athlete, to opt in or out, with sort of full authority. But maybe there's a compromise. Maybe the compromise is you shut it down for a week or two while you get this stuff straightened out, and then you finish up and play maybe a 40-game season. I don't know what it is.
No, it's just my opinion again, and I think you just have to completely shut it down, because even before the pandemic, we know there's a flu season, right? And that's usually around September, October. My neighbor told me to get a flu shot in September. Why? Because it's going to hit. Yeah. So now when you couple that with the pandemic, I just really, and Buster Olney of ESPN, his words continue to echo in my mind that we're not going to get through this season, and that's one of the main reasons. You got the COVID and you got the flu, and you put it together, and it's not a good formula for success, in my opinion, man. It's just not.
Yeah, and they said this from the start. One of the reasons why when the players said, well, just do the postseason into November, and the owner said, no, we can't do that, and their thinking was, we won't get that far because of the second wave. Everybody's waiting for this second wave in the next flu season, where a second wave of COVID.
Right.
And hell, we've had a second wave within the first wave. So there's no way you're going to escape that, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I hear everything you're saying, and again, I can't say you're wrong. When I look at Eduardo Rodriguez from the Red Sox, who he's shut down now indefinitely. He wants to pitch. But he got diagnosed with, what is it, myocarditis? It's an arrhythmia of the heart, and it's a result of the case of COVID that he had. So this is one of the lingering effects he's dealing with, and he anticipates and they hope that this is something that can be treated and that he'll be fine long term. But these are things we don't know. These are the things about this virus that we just don't know. Here's a guy, a healthy, fit, professional athlete who got it, did not get it as severely as some people do, apparently,
right,
and yet still has this very lingering, serious issue. And this is his heart, for God's sake. And they've made the right choice to shut him down indefinitely because of it while they get him healthy. But how many more of these are out there? How many more of these are waiting to happen? Yeah. And God forbid worse. So that's always been in the background of this, and it's tough to think in those terms, but it's always there.
Hey, Gordon, Lauren Cox here. So I wanted to ask. I know they asked David Ross, Cubs manager, what he was going to do this weekend since the series was postponed, and he said he'd be watching baseball with his pup. But wanted to get some insight from you about his leadership. I mean, with the adversity that, of course, is this season and the world now, and him being a new manager, take us in the locker room. How has his leadership been throughout this amazing season, to say the least?
Yeah, that's a great question, because going into this whole thing before they restarted, I was thinking, Joe Madden has this unique way of working and dealing with people, and especially for a guy of his generation, of sort of transcending generations. Like he does a good job of communicating with young people, and I thought, well, he's going to be really good at handling this. And we still didn't know what kind of manager David Ross was going to be, much less under circumstances like this. But it turns out he is a really good fit for this. His personality, which we already knew. We already knew he had a relationship with these guys. 9 of those guys in that clubhouse were on the team with him when he was a player, winning that championship in 2016. So there were built-in relationships already, and he had maintained a connection to the team since then through the front office, and so he would be at spring training, and he's maintained those relationships along the way. So that helped, and he's got a catcher who was always a clubhouse leader. So he dealt with every pitcher on his staff. He dealt with different personalities and trying to get him through games, almost as a second manager on the field, and then being the clubhouse leader just across the board. Anyway, all these skills have come in to play in this really unique time, sort of as a really, I guess you could call it a happy accident, just because of the moment we're in. But this is also part of the intent of why they hired him, is because he had that skill set. But it's really putting him in a good place to deal with this, and for the players to kind of all buy in. They've got a leader who, is one of them. I mean, he rallies them, and it's a natural thing.
Yeah, it is, and I echo exactly what you said. It's a great opportunity. It's an unfortunate situation that we're in, and that as a society and a world. But I really look at this season, Gordon, as being training wheels for Rossi on the north side, and for the entire team on the south side. When you talk about the White Sox, I mean, what a golden opportunity. Even if we don't get through, the completion of this season, it's a great opportunity for these young kids on the south side to get out there and play Major League Baseball. And we've just seen a glimpse of what the future looks like regarding the White Sox. And so this season, in my opinion, is training wheels, because they're getting an opportunity to get out there and get a taste of it. Once we get back to normalcy, if we ever get there, and they can play a 162 regular game season, that team on the south side, oh my goodness, holy Moses!
Well, yeah, I'm with you. I just keep thinking it doesn't matter if the training wheels hold up the bike if there's a truck coming down the road.
You got that right. You get that right.
I keep thinking of this virus.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to, I'm the guy that looks at the glass half full, and I'm trying to be optimistic. But, our motto here at the Rewind Sports 60, Gordon, is real sports, real talk, just plain real. And the reality of it is we're in this thing for a long, long time. And, sports or no sports, man, we got to take care of each other. We appreciate you taking some time out to join us on the fastest hour in sports conversation. It is the Rewind Sports 60. Gordon Whitmire, thank you, brother. Stay safe, and we'll certainly be talking with you moving down the road, okay?
Thanks, Gordon.
Hey, thanks.
You too. Be well.
Yeah. You too. Thank you so very much. He's the best in the business, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
I had a thought, though. I was talking about, we go through the flu and the coronavirus and everything.
Yeah.
And then we get to Halloween or early November, and you have the Minnesota Twins and the Colorado Rockies in the World Series.
Oh, jeez.
Denver versus Minnesota outside. That would be the topper to the whole thing.
He is the marvelous one, Dan Marver. She's the lovely, talented, outstanding Lauren Cox. I'm Jerry Riles, and we come back, ladies and gentlemen. We go to the bubble. We go down to Orlando, or we talk about the NBA as far as what's happening. We're getting ready for the playoffs. It's the Rewind.
Relax. Reset. Rejuvenate. Go to a link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.
If it's Chicago sports you want, you're in the right place.
Hello, Chicago!
The Rewind Sports 60.
That's the best in the city of Chicago.
Welcome back to the Rewind Sports 60 live with the best sports panel in Chicago. Lock it in.
Welcome, everybody, to the Rewind Sports 60. I am your host, Lauren Cox, here with the fastest hour in sports talk. And we have on our TR60 line, Sam Smith, Bulls.com columnist. How are you, Sam, this wonderful Sunday evening?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
So we want to get right into it. Everything with the bubble and the NBA, everything is just all up in the air now in terms of with COVID-19 and the Bulls. But I wanted to ask, because I heard reports that they were possibly still talking about keeping Boylan as the coach. What have you heard in terms of the coaching situation with the Bulls? And I was a little surprised when I heard that rumor. So we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the Bulls coaching change?
Well, I don't know that it's a story because the coach has 2 years left, and nobody has suggested they were thinking about making a change. So that's, it's sort of like media and fan-driven. But,
Right.
They hired a new executive, and he just said he's analyzing the staff. So he never broached the notion of making a staff change. And in fact, seems to me he already indicated he's not, because he made a couple of major moves when he came. And usually when you come in, you do what you're going to do, and then you sort of move forward with what you got there. And, the general manager was released, Gar Forman, and the head trainer, Jeff Tanaka. So those are two substantial figures. So I don't really think there was really anything going on. And Arturis indicated, and that's where I think people are missing the point, especially Bulls fans on this. It's really the NBA has done the team a tremendous disservice. And if there was going to be any significant changes, it would have been if they had an opportunity, and which they should have, to be in Orlando. To finish the season, or at least play 8 games, and then new management would have had an opportunity to judge players, judge staff, interaction, teaching, everything they do, and now they haven't. So I really think once the Bulls were eliminated from going to Orlando, I think the NBA did Bulls fans and the organization a tremendous disservice and set them back potentially years because of this. Then I think the new management's hands were tied. I don't think they were in position to really do anything based on what. I mean, you watch more Bulls games than they did, most likely, and so I don't think they had any idea what's going on with the team.
Well, wait a minute, Sam. We're on with the great Sam Smith, Bulls.com, a longtime columnist, covering the Chicago Bulls in the greatest city in the world, Chicago. You're saying that you believe the NBA did the Chicago Bulls a disservice by not inviting them down to be a part of this close of the season, the restart, and the play into the playoffs, and you say that because of what again? Because maybe I missed it. You're saying the NBA did the Bulls a disservice by not inviting them down to the bubble in Orlando.
Absolutely. No, it's a disaster for the organization. Well, just look at what's going on. In February, would you have considered the possibility of, say, trading T.J. Warren for Zach LaVine or Lauri Markkanen? No. But now T.J. Warren's averaging 38 points.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, well, he's a potential all-star and all this. There was no opportunity. And now, at the very least, if you're looking at it, selfishly, you say, well, he's much more valuable as a trade possibility now. The guy's averaging 38 points and, great scorer, this and that. So, nobody with the Bulls have had this opportunity to do this. I know, fans are down on the Bulls. Oh, it was a disappointing season. Want to move on. But you're missing the point that, it's like saying, in March, if you can't make the playoffs, they don't send you home. On several levels, like I say, doesn't give Arturis and Eversley an opportunity to judge the players or the staff. That's one thing. Doesn't give the players an opportunity to do something at a time when others are.
Right.
And also, if you look at just the teams that are not going to make the playoffs, like, say, Phoenix, what a great opportunity. All these players together, developing teamwork, bonding, all these things we talk about that are so valuable, these supposed intangibles, the Bulls don't get to share in. Just several other teams too. What's the upside to this? What's the positive?
So here's the deal, and the reason we're in this situation, Sam, and I love you and I respect your work and everything you've done recently, and of course over your illustrious career. But here's part of the problem. First of all, we're going through this pandemic that none of us has ever gone through, and for the Brain Trust and Adam Silver and his team have done a fabulous job of putting this hub together down in Orlando. So it's partly to reduce the risk of players getting this virus and spreading it. So that's one reason.
No. You're wrong.
No, Sam.
No, you're wrong. You're wrong scientifically, because there's no evidence anywhere that having 80 players versus, say, whatever the number you wanted to. The point was that was going to work from the beginning. There was whatever the criticisms were, it was going to work because they're protected and they're safer than you are. There's no way you're in a position where you have less chance of getting an illness than they do. They're tested constantly. They're monitored constantly. They're people who interact with them are monitored.
Mm-hmm.
They're in a closed environment.
No, I get that.
They can't go outside. So it was for sure gonna work. And if you wanted to do the league, if they wanted to do it's pretty apparent what they did, which was which not quite criminal, but certainly unfair. This is basically all about trying to get Zion Williamson into the playoffs. It's not gonna happen.
And they were eliminated today.
Well, your plan didn't work, Sam.
No, Sam.
Wait. It's so transparent, the stunt the league pulled, that there was no reason to bring 6 teams. They made up. They manufactured this notion of, if you're within 6 games of the playoffs, you can make the playoffs.
No, Sam.
Sam. It's obvious what they did.
Sam, you got the wrong player. You got the wrong plan. It's not Zion. It's LeBron James. they want LeBron James and the Lakers.
That was a shoo-in.
To win the championship. That's what that's all about. Zion, he's the heir apparent, but they want LeBron and the Lakers in there.
No, they were already in the playoffs.
But they want them to win.
They had the option of starting the playoffs, doing a camp and whatever, and have 16 teams, because there was a big gap between all the 8s and 9s. So you could have just started the playoffs, and it being an aberrational season, you could have done anything. So, but they added 6 teams for no reason. Well, one reason, to give Zion a chance to be on TV, get some ratings. And once you were going to do that, then you had to include everybody else and give everybody else a chance. I'm telling you, you like to criticize the Bulls, but what the league has done, the league has put basically classified like a secondary status. How could you not say that? See that?
Well, one reason
22 teams you
Sam,
can play, but you 8 can't.
Sam, one reason we can't see it is the fact that the Bulls were terrible. they were terrible, and they did not earn the right to go down to the bubble. They didn't earn the right because they were so bad.
No. I understand they didn't earn the right to be in the playoffs, but neither did Phoenix, neither did Washington, neither did New Orleans, any of those teams. They didn't. They inserted 6 teams with an agenda to put one guy into the playoffs. They're not going to get it because, of all things, his own team stopped playing him.
Right.
Half the time.
He played. The guy goes home. He plays 15 minutes. He scores 13 points when he comes back. Unbelievable.
But the other part of it is you talk all the time about, and the point is you look. The Bulls and a number of other teams were in a routine that I'm sure you had lobbied for over the last years. Let's lose games so we could get. I've heard this tanking thing, which I was opposed to.
No, I'm not a tanking guy.
Well, a lot of people were, obviously. And I'm sure on your show people will call in and say, better to lose games, let's have a big... So they did. They did that. They lost games. But that's part of the routine historically in sports, that, if you can't, win, or if you're not in that position... something, and people are always trying to figure out ways around it.
Yeah.
Well, but that's part of the way things operate. So they were on the downside now for a short time.
Wait,
or whatever.
but Sam.
And so they that's a routine to getting back to competitiveness. You don't penalize somebody for doing something according to the way historically things have run. But I'm telling you, by the fact they're not down there, that's going to be a negative. And you're talking about changing coaches, changing players, whatever. How is the new management supposed to make a judgment on that?
Hey, Sam, this is Dan here. Here's a thought for you. You know how the NHL handled the startup, right? Well, I don't agree with the 8 games where they're playing random teams and it's nonsense. If they'd done what the NHL did, guess what? The Bulls were in 11th place. The Blackhawks were in 12th, and they won a round. They should have had the top 4 like the NHL, and then you would have had your wish, because the Bulls were 11th, and they would have had a play.
They should have put all 30 teams
Yeah,
in.
well,
I mean, what's the big deal? Really. And obviously, after the fact, you could make the case because nobody got sick, but you could have guessed that going in, as much protection they were going to get. And there's no scientific evidence anywhere that if you have 80 fewer people in some sort of a big, situation, that you're going to be safer. There's not true. There's no way you can prove that.
Well, it's all in numbers, and we all know, you can manipulate numbers any way you look at it, because, the more people you have.
So based on your logic, why not just have LeBron and?
Well, that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. They want LeBron to win. They want him to win.
Safer, right? Wouldn't it be safer? You just put the Lakers and the Bucks in the finals and be done with it.
There you go. Anyway. Hey, Sam Smith, we're on with the great Sam Smith, Bulls.com, covering your Chicago Bulls. Here's the deal. Back to the question that Lauren asked. Jim Boylan, you talk about tanking. It seemed like he had a memo in his locker, in his office, that every night he went out prior to this pandemic, he was trying to find a way for this team to lose. And it got to the point that the fans, they had the lowest attendance in the United Center's history. I think they averaged between 9,000 and 11,000 fans at one particular time, which was the lowest that the Bulls fans had ever seen in decades. And you had players, and we know Zach LaVine and his relationship with Jim Boylan didn't have the respect to want to play for this guy. We understand that the players had a time clock put in the locker room where they have to punch in and out. What is this, a hard hat, lunch pail carrying, blue collar job that these guys got to punch a clock to go to work? That's ridiculous. So when you talk about...
Well, it would be ridiculous because it wasn't true.
Well, I don't know, because I've been in the locker room and I've been there with it. And I didn't see the clock. I was looking around myself, but there's been speculation that there's a time clock somewhere in there.
What you're talking about? It was a symbolic gesture. It was kind of childish. He put, and it was, you could make justification in the Advocate Center. He put a time clock as a symbolic statement to, like, we're going to be hard hats. The old Chicago thing. Bring your hard hat, blue collar, which is nonsense, of course. But what
is wrong with this guy?
That's all it was. Nobody was punching a clock to go to work.
Here's the thing. I think people, and when you bring in a new front office, I love John Paxson, but it was time for him to move on. Gar Forman just didn't get the job done. When you clean house,
they changed that. So they changed that.
Sam,
you were asking for that, right?
Sam,
so they did that.
Everybody's asking for a new coach. That's what everybody's asking for, and no one understands why this guy has not been. And I'm not for anybody losing a job or anything like that, but it happens to the best of us, Sam, believe it or not. It's time for him to move on. And if you showed that the fan base that you're moving in a new direction, in a positive direction, the coach, who was the fixture, the face of this disaster, he's got to be the first one to go. And for him to be the last one still hanging on, and there's speculation that he's going to continue to move on, it ruffles the feathers of a lot of, and you talk about Chicago fans and the blue collar working attitude, there are a lot of fans out there that they're throwing their hands up and go, what the hell is going on? We don't want this guy, and we know the players don't want him. So that's the confusing message that the organization is sending, that we're going to stick with business as usual, and that means losing. And it doesn't seem to send a positive message.
Well, you need to address that to the new executives. They're the ones who, the community, and you, I'm sure, you say you've been lobbying for, to change management.
Well, I'm not lobbying. I'm not lobbying.
Garth Foreman is out. John Paxson is just in an advisory role and not involved. And there's 4 new executives there. And they have, I think he's got a 5-year contract from what I understand. So, I'm pretty sure he can do what he wants. It's not like they're going to fire him. And so, it's, the other part is, they haven't started the season yet. Now, as I pointed out, they're not allowed to play, and they're not going to, but there's a possibility that next season doesn't start until next spring.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's plenty of time to do stuff. I'm not saying they are or they're not. I don't know. But we don't know. None of us have heard from, they gave, they did a brief teleconference months ago, but none of us have heard from any of these guys. I haven't spoken to them. I don't know them, haven't met them, because of the separation and everything with the. So, and like I said, I go back to the same thing. If you were lobbying for this, you more than anybody should have been lobbying for the Bulls to be there, because if what you suggest is the case, that the coaches can't do this and the players are in revolt and all, that would have shown up if the Bulls played. Now, how does he know? Is he know based on listening to you? I mean,
I hope not. I hope not. Hey, Sam, I hope he's not basing it on what I see. I hope he's not doing it.
That's why I say on so many levels, this really hurt the organization, because these guys, when you know that I've been around a long time, I have. One thing I know about organizations is they know their organization. We know the Bulls better than he does. He's going to learn the Bulls. But all season long, Karnisovas, I'm not even sure how to pronounce his name, watched the Nuggets. That's all he watched. And Eversley watched the Sixers. And the other guy, JJ, I'm not sure his name, watched the Pelicans. That's because that's what they had to know. We're watching the Bulls. We know more about them. They needed to see this, and Orlando would have been the ideal situation, and they didn't get the opportunity. So, like I said, I think it's a real setback, and I think the fans are missing. You guys are missing the point on this. How much this is really setting them back in the ability to, to make changes.
Well, I hope you're right, Sam. It's the fastest hour in sports. Thank you so very much for taking time on this Sunday. Keep up the great work, and we'll certainly, hopefully, talk with you down the road when we get to the playoffs and the championship, if this pandemic allows us. Sam,
that might be a number of years.
You're right. Hey, Sam.
On this conversation,
we got to go. Thank you so much, very much. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Sam.
Take care. It's the fastest hour in sports conversation. Lauren Cox, outstanding, marvelous. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Devin Tingle, you're the best in the business.
Relax. Reset. Rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60. TheRewindSports60.com.
Matt, just curious, with no preseason, just kind of wondering, to what extent can you use your defense as kind of a measuring stick for your quarterbacks, and kind of to be more specific, to take it to the level of like a simulated game or something more than just ones versus ones in in practice reps?
Yeah, you have to have some flexibility there, Mark, in regards to how you do that, and we'll end up, going through practice when we want to get into the 7-on-7 defense, 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, how that works rep wise, and then when you do get into a quote unquote game scrimmage type environment, understanding, we do that every year, and when you throw some live in there, obviously nobody touches the quarterback, but it tends to ramp up a little bit, and everyone understands that. So we have a plan and a process that we're kind of working through right now. The schedule is always changing. Again, I appreciate your guys' flexibility with moving this up an hour. We changed our own schedule today, a few hours ago. So things are always changing, and we're going to try to get creative between these drills that we do 7-on-7 team periods and 1-on-1s.
But just to be clear, man, I'm talking about using your first team defense as kind of a measuring stick, something that you don't normally do. How tempting is it to use that as like arguably that's a better measuring stick than a preseason game because your defense is so good.
Yeah, no, you're right. And so I didn't understand your question at first. You were chopping out just a little bit, but in regards to going 1v1, you can still get away with doing that. We do it all camp, but to sit there and go live 1v1, that's, I think, where you got to have a balance. Is that what you want to do or not do? And so we'll talk through period wise. If we do go 1v1, understanding that there's pros and cons to that, but for each quarterback and for the rest of these guys that are competing, as long as it's equal, regardless of who they're going against, we know both of these quarterbacks have played against NFL defenses in their career.
Thank you.
Hey, Matt. Just curious, what was the process like to get this practice schedule put together, and who did you kind of lean on to get this thing ready to go in such an unprecedented time?
Well, JJ, let me just say this schedule, it can be at times a little bit consuming because you want to get it right. You want to give you what they give you. You want to be able to use as much as you can and make it make sense. There's transition times involved. You're trying to please everybody, whether it's the coaches, the players, walking back and forth across the practice fields from Walter Payton Center back to Hallis. And this has never been done before. There's not one NFL coach that you're going to sit here and ask a question, have you ever done this schedule? Because the answer is no, not one person has done this schedule. So there's flexibility, there's creativity, people got to adapt. And I think for us, just understanding that and being cool with that, it's been difficult, but we feel pretty good with it. And I preface and asterisk every single meeting with our players and coaches. Every single day we wake up and we come to practice, I always have the ability to change the schedule because we're learning. So hopefully y'all can take that too and understand and not get angry when we make a quick check like we did today.
Matt, with the wrapping up here and full contact starting up, where's your confidence with the offense, both in the classroom portion of work and then the readiness for full speed work here?
Well, today was our very first day throwing routes to each other on air for the first time. Think about that, right? We've had a lot of Zoom meetings. We've had a lot of discussions. We can talk about it. It sounds good through this computer. But today was the very first time that our entire team, and I'm speaking offensively, being able to throw routes from these quarterbacks to the wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs for the first time since last year. So understanding that there's a lot of time that goes into this, that I think the league and the Players Association did a great job at doing this ramp up deal and knowing that there is, you can't go out there and just play football without having these little intricacies of practice and timing on both sides of the ball. You need to have that first. So today was day one of that. I thought the guys running routes on air, the timing of the quarterbacks looked pretty good. They're understanding their steps, the details of what they do. Where do they line up pre-snap? Defensively, what can they do? Well, there's only so much they can do in this phase right now. We can't go against each other. So we're still kind of in that beginning stage. These guys are going to be really excited to actually go against somebody else on the other side and compete for the first time in a long time.
Jeff? Matt, can you go a little deeper into how Foles looked today? I mean, we've all seen Mitch
for years and everything. And, Nick's the one that didn't have a chance to get to know these guys in the off season and didn't have a chance to throw to these guys in these side workouts. So with just Nick specifically, I mean, how did it go today with him?
Hey, Jeff. Yeah, so far so good. Again, timing that I saw between both those quarterbacks, Nick and Mitch, looked good. There's going to be some times where there's going to be mistakes, and they're working through what we want to do here in this offense and trying to be perfect with that. Specifically, with Nick today, I thought his feet were good. I thought his timing was good. But again, we're evaluating and watching these guys at the same time, and I thought that Mitch too. We've talked about he's growing as well as a quarterback. So both those guys, the room has been great. They're really helping each other out. I told you all it's going to be a healthy competition, and so far they're proving me right.
Hey, Matt. I know last year obviously wasn't what you guys were hoping for from a passing game perspective, but Allen was still pretty productive, put up big numbers. He's done it throughout his career. What part of his game kind of has allowed him to be so consistently productive year after year?
His care in meetings, his care in practice makes the game easy. He practices how you're supposed to practice. He takes notes and watches film how you're supposed to take notes and watch film. He gets with the quarterback during practice and talks about details. And then when he plays on Sundays, he produces. So he's a great mentor for all these young kids that we have on this team and others that come onto it, that he does it consistently every single day. And his day is the same every single day, Monday, through Sunday. So it's just great for these guys to be able to see that. And I think that's why he's so productive individually.
Cam Ellis.
Hey, Matt. Earlier in the week, Eddie Jackson went on a TV show and was talking about maybe getting some offensive snaps with maybe the possibility of no fans in the stadiums this year. Do you view that as something that maybe would be able to sort of bring up the energy, bring up the enthusiasm when, the fans aren't really there anymore?
Yeah, well, we're just going to – I'm surprised he didn't tell you that we're just playing him on offense this year. So he's gonna play the zebra receiver, and we're going to let teams prepare for him there. So take that and deal with that.
Dan?
Matt, going back to your assertion that this is obviously the first time practicing in a long time, since December, you've got a lot to clean up on offense. You've got a quarterback competition. You got 4 new coaches on the offensive staff. You got a handful of new faces in there. What realistically can you get done to be ready to play a football game in 4 weeks?
Oh, a lot. We can do a lot. That's the fun part. We're all like just so excited to get back at it. It's making sure that we're coaching the right way, the details of what we do. The players need to understand that the energy that they have, they've been in these Zoom meetings and now they're together. They love this game. They love I think all of us, it just gives you a really good appreciation of what you have in front of you. And so now, knowing the time and where we're at before game 1, we as coaches got to understand that. It's a little different. The players got to understand that there's a little bit more of a sense of urgency. So every single rep that you take in practice, every single rep that you script as a coach, it really, really, really has to be magnified. And when we're done with practice, we get together, we watch the film, the evaluation process. We have a good process for that. But there's definitely a sense of urgency between all of us and making sure that we're effective in every practice.
Dion?
Hey, Matt, you mentioned Mitch is growing. In what ways are you seeing some of that off-season work that he said he dedicated himself to, the studying and that sort of thing, translating to what he's doing on the field? I know it's limited right now, but are you seeing some of those things on the field?
Hey, Dion. Yeah, it is. I think right now, I wish I could give you more, but it is just too limited. When we start getting into competitive periods and the defense is on the other side, I'll be able to better answer that question for you. It's the same thing with Nick. So these guys they're out here throwing the football. They're getting their timing down. They're understanding what they need to do with ball handling. But we're looking at that. But again, the evaluation process that we're all trying to watch and look for and search for really is not going to start until you put some people on the other side. And so all I can say is that everything that we're looking for from those quarterbacks in regards to focus and the mental side of just eliminating mental errors and not making the same mistake twice, they're really all three quarterbacks are doing that. And that's all we can ask for. So once we get a little bit further into this thing and the pads come on and there's situational football, I can answer that a little bit better for you.
Pat Finley.
Hey, Matt, I hope you'll humor me with a multi-part question here. As a college football fan, what did you think of the Pac-12 and the Big Ten deciding to postpone? As a NFL coach, how do you guys look at players who might not have a season under their belt whenever the draft does come up? And also, are you in favor of the NFL playing Saturdays if that's what the league wants to do?
Yeah, Pat. So a few things. I think number one, when you take a step back and you look at everything that's going on today, and you get into the sports world and decisions that have to be made, there's always the health and safety aspect that is first and foremost, making sure people are healthy and safe. You also have the emotional side for everybody associated with that. It can be very emotional. There's a lot of different, decisions that have to be made, and you look at it from the kids' perspective, and who knows what their decisions are, what they end up doing for next year or for the spring, but you have to respect all these decisions that are made. Number one, I think that's what we all need to do. There's reasons behind it. And people are allowed to have their own opinions, but you got to respect where they're coming from. And again, health and safety is important. Your second question was it on the Saturdays, or what was your second question?
No. How do teams evaluate players that might not have a season? In general.
Yeah. So for that, I right now, being completely candid, that's going to be for Ryan and his people. For me. We're so laser focused right now on what we're doing that I wish I could tell you more. But Ryan will have a plan with his crew as to how we're going to handle that. And then in regards to Saturdays, I don't know where that's going or where things will be, but we're prepared every day going into this year. We're prepared to expect the unexpected. So whatever they tell us to do, we'll do, and we'll be ready.
Brad, go ahead.
Matt, I realize things are going to ramp up beginning on Monday. My question is, what's a best case scenario in terms of a timeline for you to be able to make a decision with your quarterback?
Sure. Hey, Brad. That for us is going to be fluid. And when I say that, we got to be able to see, okay, if we need to sneak more competitive periods in because we feel like we're not getting enough or things are gray, we'll do that. As far as the timeline of that, we'll get together offensively as coaches. We'll talk through everything, and we'll decide what we think is best in regards to the communication to the quarterbacks and then the communication as to how we want to handle it with our team. It's just as important for everybody to understand that. So again, we're not exactly there yet because we don't know how it's going to go here in the next several weeks. But once we get to that point, we'll keep that stuff, private with us. And I promise you, when we feel the time is right, you guys will be the first to know. After the quarterbacks.
We have time for one more. Adam Hogue.
Hey, Matt. In a normal year, crowd noise is something you guys always prepare for, whether it's you're going on the road and you're practicing with it or you're trying to use it to your advantage. What types of things are you already working on knowing that that's not really going to be a factor? I mean, one thing I can think of right away is maybe cadence at the line of scrimmage or even just calling plays in a huddle if it's so quiet.
Sure. Yeah, Adam. It's one of those deals where, again, it's the unknown for all of us. I think every stadium can be a little bit different as to the rules of what they can and can't do and how they want to go about it. So I think for us, what we're trying to do is prepare with different what ifs. Is it super loud? Is it super quiet? And then we need to just be able to have answers for that. And so whether it's with cadence on offense, and that affects the defense too. There could be some change in the teams and how they go about it. And then all of a sudden you get 6-7 games in and you realize that a team is doing something a certain way, either whether they're, for instance, with cadence, they're going silent every game, regardless of home or away. Usually you're going silent on the road. Well, now you might go on the road and there's no crowd. And so you decide that you want to, you decide that you want to go cadence. But some team may say, you know what, we want to go silent. So there's just a lot of different decisions.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Sports Medicine Update Podcast, a weekly podcast with yours truly, Jerry Riles, and, of course, the Honorable Dr. Chad Patroman. Doctor, how are you?
Having a great day, Jerry. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm out on the deck, so to speak, and enjoying the beautiful, beautiful weather here in the greatest city in the world, and, of course, Chicago, Illinois, but always looking forward to having an opportunity to sit down and chat with you regarding the weekly podcast and, of course, the world of sports, Doctor. In Major League Baseball, the Florida Marlins, they had to take a few days off. About 20 players tested positive over the past couple of weeks regarding the coronavirus and COVID-19. But it seems like, Doctor, despite the fact of over the league, the St. Louis Cardinals, the Milwaukee Brewers, and players around the league have tested positive for coronavirus and COVID-19. We haven't really seen any major illnesses or people coming down with some severity as far as, the results of testing positive for coronavirus and COVID-19. What is your assessment to all of this that's developed over the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, I agree with you, Jerry. And I just know what I read in the papers like everybody else. But it's interesting. The one account I read said the Marlins had 20 people test positive, but only one had symptoms with body aches and cold-like symptoms, and that they had played a 3-day series. I don't remember the name of the team, and that nobody on the other team, at least to that point, had tested positive. So I think it's, one would have predicted that these young, healthy people, by and large, would not get severely infected. And we talked before about how baseball players, by and large, are pretty lean. I'd mentioned that I think football's a little bit of an outlier because it's the one sport where you get much bigger people. So I think, several things are noteworthy. One, that people didn't seem to get sick. Two, that it spread within the team, but not to the other team. And, three, there's an issue with this that hasn't really been talked about, but I talked about a few weeks ago, the whole herd immunity thing. So, herd immunity got talked about. Is it the complete answer to the problem or not? And I mentioned then, and I've written about this, I think herd immunity is kind of an intermediate thing. It's something that, if you will, flattens the curve. So when you think about it, the Marlins now are going to have, once everybody's back, I don't know, I think the rosters are 30, so maybe 20 out of 30 or something like that, people that aren't going to get infected. And if you're thinking, well, people have said that there are reinfections, I will tell you that there haven't been. The tests may vary a little, but there has not been a documented instance of somebody getting reinfected and then infecting somebody else. So the point is, most people think that these supposed reinfections are either tested or testing positive for fragments of the virus that aren't infectious. Anyway, so I think most people think that once you've had it, you're pretty much immune, at least for a significant period of time. So the point is, when you think about it, in the future, if, say, one of the 10 people, one of the people that wasn't infected gets infected, a majority of the people in that dugout are not going to be able to transmit it. And that just exerts a negative effect on the spread of the virus.
No, it's interesting, and again, we've talked about this over the past few weeks, and of course, the past few months since the outbreak in March, and there's different speculations and theories, regarding how severe this could be. On one end of the spectrum, and you and I have talked about it, some people say they chalk it up as this, nothing more than, the common flu, so to speak. And others are saying that, it could lead to, unfortunately, the end of life. And the spectrum is very, very broad. As far as Major League Baseball is concerned, they don't want to be on the wrong end of this thing, and no one does. So now they're saying that players, they have everything in place, but now they're saying that players have to take it another step higher and police themselves away from the ballpark and the facilities by not going out to public venues or engaging with other folks outside of the baseball family, because you only increase the risk of potentially and possibly, bringing that virus into the clubhouse. And you and I are both on the same page. I believe that these guys are certainly the most physically fit specimens on the face of the planet when you talk about professional athletes. But the unfortunate or the downside of it is the people that they may engage with away from the ballpark, whether it's a family member or wife, girlfriend, kids, elderly, or anything like that, who are more vulnerable. That's where the real scare comes in and the real focus comes in. Despite what we think, how do you handle that when you're away from the ballpark if you're these professional athletes, in particular Major League Baseball players who have the high numbers?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. And the thing is, I think they wind up being like other people that go to work. I have a medical practice. I go in, as I said, we scrub down the rooms, we have plexiglass up, I wear a mask all day. And then when I'm not in the office and when I'm not at home, I'm careful. I'm careful if we go grocery shopping. We've done a couple of social things, but we're careful when we do them. So I think it's kind of, and we don't have, we have one elderly person that we see who's a relative from time to time. You're just careful. And I don't think it's any different for baseball players than it is for other people. And, as you said, if you want complete safety, then just shut down and quarantine permanently. But, they're not going to do that. It's kind of my point. If they're not playing baseball, I don't think they're staying inside all day. And people like them, young, active, fit people, are probably the last people that are going to be satisfied staying home. And then if they do, there's other things that come up. There's, everybody knows domestic issues and drug issues and all kinds of things. So I think they do what they do in the bubble. When they're away from the bubble, they're just careful. And then I think that's all you can do. I don't really see where shutting down the season, if that were an option, or even withdrawing. If people want to withdraw players, they should. If you can afford not to work and you're uncomfortable working, by all means, you should. So I'm not questioning that right. What I am saying is that for those athletes, I think maybe unlike football players, if they choose not to play baseball, I don't know, I think then how do they spend their days? Staying inside all day watching television? I think that's kind of unlikely. So, and I think I've watched other sports more than baseball. I don't know how many people, maybe you do in baseball, have chosen not to play. But as you said, if you play and if you're really careful at other times, I think it's about, I think that's reasonable. I think it's about all you can do. And I think it's going to wind up being safe.
Yeah, I hope it does. And again, it's a very fine line. And you talked about, the symptoms, and it hasn't hit as far as the sports world is concerned, compared to mainstream America or society, hasn't had the effects of the long-term illnesses. Most of the players, pretty much all of them, have tested positive. They quarantine, and they seem to be okay. I just think that professional sports across the board don't want it to get to the point where a player who's pretty healthy take it home and say they're caring for an elderly parent. I know a lot of these athletes, they have newborns or young kids, that they have to look after and they have to be careful about. but I certainly understand they don't want, when I say they, the respective sports don't want these players taking this virus home, and then we have some really, negative experiences regarding personal family members and friends. So I think they're doing a very good job. I think that it's something eventually, regardless if it's a profession or not, we're going to have to live with as a society. And I think we're on the right track. You talked about professional sports as far as National Football League is concerned. Many of the teams reported to camp this past week, the last 10 days or so. Chicago Bears here in town, the northern suburbs of Chicago have reported. The rookies and now the veterans are starting to trickle in. And we've seen some footage, Doctor. I don't know if you had an opportunity to see it, but we've seen some footage of the players, going through their walkthroughs at the Walter Payton facilities, and they have their mask on, which is kind of interesting, because one would say it's kind of difficult, to perform at a high level wearing these masks. Have you had a chance to see the visuals, and what do you think about the precautions Major League or National Football League are taking regarding these players?
I think that I have not seen the video. It's interesting. And one just minor thing back on baseball again and the young families. It's almost a reflex to say, well, we have to protect the children. And of course we do. But as you know, and I don't know about newborns, but children, young children, school-age children, young school-age children have just shown almost no propensity to get it. And these athletes tend to be younger. They tend to have young families. So certainly if you got grandpa at home, I think that's the time to make some other living arrangement for grandpa if you can afford it, and most of them can. But a young athlete and his young wife and their young child, never say never, but I think that whole situation isn't so bad. Regarding working out with a mask, and I've tried it. I don't know if you have, but I think, lifting weights with a mask, I think is fine, and I do it. Doing something aerobic, a little tricky, but, and so I don't know, I think there's no harm in trying and doing walkthroughs and doing virtual things, but I don't think you could actually play in a game with a mask, probably.
Yeah, I would find it very difficult. And even if you started the game, these players with masks on, I think it'll be very difficult throughout the course of the 3-hour period that these guys are going to be, they're going to keep these masks on for their protection, because as you well know, the energy and the adrenaline and everything that goes into a professional sport at a high level, emotions play a major role and a major factor. And I think these players may get away from that, because we've seen it. They have penalties as far as taking off the helmet on the field, and we've seen players, do that and get penalized for it and fined for it and all of that. So it would be very interesting to see what transpires regarding the protocol or the things put into place for these players to keep these masks on throughout the course of a football game.
Jerry, I'm sorry. Just one other thought, just on baseball again, because Jerry, I know you're a student of the game, and I know you're a player. I got a question for you. I was thinking, if you wanted to take a sport that's a model for social distancing, it's kind of baseball, right? You look at the diamond, and there's all these guys standing 10 feet away from each other. And the one exception to that, outside of somebody sliding into a base, but the one exception to that is in the batter's box. So let me ask you a question, and you're more of a student of this than I am. I was thinking to myself, you've got the catcher, you got the batter, and you got the umpire. And the umpire's bent over, and he's close to the catcher, and the player's not far away. So, I wonder to myself, I've read here and there about electronic balls and strikes being used. And I've read that it works. I may have this wrong, but I thought I read about it being used in minor leagues here and there, and it wasn't so bad. I think this, and it's different at first and third base. The umpire's not like right there breathing down the first baseman's neck. But, I wonder about if you, at least for now, if you just substituted out the home plate umpire for a mechanized thing. Then all you've got is the catcher and the batter, and maybe that's suboptimal, but at least with the umpire out of there, you don't have the umpire breathing the same air with all these guys the whole game. And who knows, maybe you put some kind of a plexiglass thing on the catcher too. But what do you think about that? You think getting rid of the home plate umpire and doing electronic would work in the bigs?
Wow, that's a great question. I think even before the pandemic, Doc, I think, Major League Baseball was looking at that, and you talked about it, sampling it or, testing it out in the minor league levels. And I think that's a different subject for a different day. Might speed up the day with the pandemic. Baseball purists like myself, and I believe like you, we want to see the umpire there. Because you and I go back to the day, remember in the American League, where they had those big inflatable chest protectors, remember?
Yeah,
right. They were, yeah, when we evolved from that, some people are like, hey, I don't like the way it looks, others do. As far as the electronic, baseball monitoring is concerned with the strikes and balls and strikes, I think technology is gearing toward that, and the pandemic might speed it up. But who knows? It's got to go through the collective bargaining agreement with the owners and the players' union to determine if that's what they want to use. And of course, they have to find an alternative to put another umpire out on the field just to make sure that they can, no pun intended, but cover all the bases as far as the calls out in the field, right?
Yeah.
But that's a good perspective as far as accelerating this thing and testing it out because of the pandemic. The one thing about baseball, and it's been brought to my attention as well, along with the other sports, Doc, is you and I, they talk about the spitball, right? They outlawed the spitball.
Yeah, that's right.
It's but you still see pitchers going. They get off the mound, and they go to their mouth.
Yeah.
And then they rub
Great
the ball
point.
up, right?
Yeah.
And then they get back out there and throw. Now, in this this era of COVID and coronavirus, some people are saying, hey, wait a minute, because guys' hands are sweaty because they're out there in the field. They're wiping their brow.
Yeah.
And there's a ground ball to Javi Baez, a short. He grounds it, picks it up, and throws it over to Rizzo. There's still some type of perspiration, some type of moisture on the ball. And can that transfer from one to the other? I mean, have you heard of that situation?
Yeah, it's a great thought. I haven't. And, as to the umpire thing, it's kind of interesting tennis, right? So, back in the days of McEnroe, right? They had before they had the, I forget what they called it, but the electronic figuring out Hawkeye maybe with tennis balls. And so, some people thought it was entertaining to see McEnroe or somebody arguing with the line judge. I respected the fact that he was a competitor, but I was not a big fan. Anyway, so they got rid of, they have the Hawkeye thing, so there's no more arguments. And, they still have the lines people, I guess. But I think the addition of the electronics has been a plus. It's not the same thing with baseball exactly, but, might also get rid of a few arguments.
No, it may get, but as you all know, in this beautiful world that we live in, whatever man creates, there's always some type of opposition, regardless if it's good for life and society or not. You're always going to find someone that's going to question the technology. And of course, we know with the Houston Astros and winning the World Series, as far as stealing signs and using cameras and banging on the garbage cans in the dugout, someone's always going to find an advantage regarding technology. And I'm sure if we got rid of home plate umpire in place of the electronic sports tracker for strikes, balls, and strikes, he's certainly going to have somebody questioning, the equipment and the technology. But
so
that's
Jerry,
that's the world we live in.
I got another question for you. So you're just so knowledgeable. I'll be the interviewer here a little bit. But how about the dugout? So I think players are still in the dugout, right? So I'm thinking to myself, there's no fans, at least I think. So why not put the players, in seats next to a door that comes out of the field, a couple a couple of seats apart. What do you think?
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
Put the players in the seats, put them in first row seats right behind the dugout instead of in the dugout to increase social distancing.
Well, they do have the, it's like kind of like a canopy in the stands, in the box seat area. And I believe during the exhibition games or whatever, they had the players, sitting there for some sort of social distancing as well.
Yeah.
I think the reason they're, allowed in the dugout or whatever is the fact that, again, once these players, every day that they come to the ballpark, they're getting their temperature taken and, they are getting tested. And as long as the test results come back negative, owners and management and the players alike feel that we are safe, we're not contagious, no one has it. And so we are, we can get somewhat close in the dugout. Now, of course, they try to eliminate the high five and they try to eliminate as much contact as possible. If you remember last week, Javi Baez with a walk-off winner over at, I believe, Wrigley Field, it took place. And the, normally the players, they go and they hug each other and they jump up and down, well, this was kind of like a social distance circle, and Javi Baez giving, the fans high fives just to protect themselves and keep the social distancing. But I like your idea, Doc. I just think that Major League Baseball feel that, we're safe, we're okay.
Well, here's the thing, though. So, there is debate even now. Some of the contagion is, they were thinking is less than it was, probably less on surfaces than was thought, and how long you contagious, maybe not quite as long as, probably not out to 14 days. But there appears to certainly be a period of time if you, you get infected on a Wednesday, that maybe you don't get symptoms until Sunday, but Friday and Saturday you can be contagious. So just because you have negative tests, when you first, it is thought to take 2 days, 2.2 days. I've seen different results, but it's the tests almost never turn positive. It is thought from the studies that are out there on the first day. So you're exposed to somebody on a Wednesday, and you're ultimately going to get sick. Well, on Thursday, your test is almost certainly going to be positive. And it might be positive Friday. So the point is that just because you have negative tests on a daily basis, if somebody does get infected, there's going to be periods where they could theoretically contaminate somebody else. So I'm just thinking, you got all these empty seats out there. I know it's good to be in the dugout because you're sitting next to people and you can talk strategy. But I don't know. I mean, why not just take advantage of these seats? And I know what you're saying. They think it's safe enough, and maybe it is. It just strikes me that, like I said, baseball just seems to be the prototype for a sport where everything is socially distanced. And like I said, I thought, home plate umpire for one, dugout number two, and I think you could ameliorate both of those too.
Well, the downside to that one, Doc, is, of course, let's take a look at the Florida Marlins, and let's take a look at the St. Louis Cardinals. And that's why we saw it with the New York Yankees. That's why a lot of games were canceled, not because the one respective team was clean with no positive tests, but it's the Florida Marlins and the St. Louis Cardinals with their players and visiting locker rooms, right?
Yeah.
And those players were in, which caused some sort of contamination. So now that's where, some people are a little leery and skeptical, and we have to keep them away, because my team and the Cubs, let's give them credit, they have been probably the best team in Major League Baseball, if not the top two teams in baseball, who have come back with negative tests, and their players are doing everything they're asked to do to protect themselves. But if they have to question the St. Louis series for this week, because the St. Louis players tested positive for this. And, you're going down to the clubhouse down in St. Louis, you don't want to run the risk of one of your players, getting contaminated or getting the virus and then, spreading throughout your clubhouse. So that's the other, that's the other thing that needs to that Major League Baseball is taking a look at to protect everybody, not just, particular teams in particular cities.
Jerry, let me ask about something else that I've been kind of watching for, and I haven't seen, but I don't know what everybody's doing. There is interesting technology you're probably aware with ultraviolet light. So
Right.
ultraviolet light kills bugs, and they've even got these little lights where if you shine it on something, it kills viruses. Although it takes 5 or 10 seconds. But there is technology out there to have ultraviolet lights above head level that shine horizontally, and then coupled with ceiling fans that suck air up, that have been shown to be able to a significant degree to sterilize air, and it costs a couple of bucks. I don't know what it costs. I think it's, going to be some expense. I don't think it's crazy expense though. I'm thinking, you just mentioned clubhouses, but it seems to me that might be kind of a useful thing. I have not heard about any teams doing it. Have you?
Yeah. There's actually, and forgive me on this, I believe it's on the collegiate ranks. It could be on the professional ranks, but there's actually a machine that has already been created. I think it runs around $5,000, and it stands about maybe 3 to 4 feet high, Doc, and it's got 4 or 5 ultraviolet, the bulbs, vertical from the floor up to about yay high, and it's on wheels, and they cart it literally. It's like a remote control robot, and they program, they do the remote control with it, and it goes throughout the clubhouse, and supposedly it kills the virus. So there's actually a contraption. I use that term loosely, but there is an equipment that actually does that, and it's not marketed to the other teams right now. I think it's just in the experimental stages right now. But you're absolutely right. There is some technology out there to help with.
So it's interesting.
Yeah.
The issue with that is that so UV light. So if you did it when at night when nobody was there, it'd be great. I don't know that we necessarily want it to be operating when people are in the clubhouse and irradiating people with UV light. The thing that I was talking about, and I don't know what it would cost, I don't think it'd be a ton of money. The ceiling fans, I don't think are expensive. I don't know how tall the ceilings are in clubhouses. I mean, if it's 8 feet, it might be a problem, but I think they're taller than that in general. But then you mount these lights, and this kind of thing might be of interest to the general audience out there as well, because I've read about this in factories and other places where they're using this technology. So you have the lights up high, and you keep them on continuously, even when people are there. So if somebody is spewing out virus particles, it kind of sterilizes the air even while people, are there.
Yeah.
Without irradiating people with UV light.
No, that's really, really interesting. I think down in the NBA hub in Orlando, I heard a report on ESPN where the players, I guess they have like a wristband of some sort, correct? And it's an indicator to signal off if someone is carrying the virus. And I don't know exactly how it works. I think it's color coordinated as well. And if you're getting too close to someone, it'll start to alert. Say, hey, you're getting too close. And I don't know all the details surrounding us, but I think they're testing this out down in the NBA bubble in Orlando. And who knows, it may see itself, if this thing continues and we don't get a grasp on it, it may see it throughout all the sports, not only in the professional ranks, but on the collegiate ranks as well. Doc, it is a great podcast, and there's so much more that we can dive into, and we certainly will dive into. And we want everyone to be tuned in to the Sports Medicine Update podcast, and check it out, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Just Google the Sports Medicine Update, Dr. Chad Prodromos. If people want to get a hold of you, how can they find you?
So our main office number is 847-699-6810. You get actual human beings answering the phone, not a voicemail or a phone bank. And then our email to our general email mailbox is just ortho, like orthopedics, ORTHO at ismoc.net. And we'll answer everything that comes to us.
We certainly will. And if anyone has a question they want to ask the good doctor, just send your reply, your comments to that email address. And we'll certainly address it on the weekly podcast. Doc, thank you so very much. Always a pleasure. And always looking forward to the insight and the knowledge that you bring to our audience. Keep up the great work. Want you to stay safe. Are you down there in Florida?
Yeah, we're down in Naples. We have a satellite office down in Naples, and be careful. But we are. So it's not a real hotspot. Parts of Florida are. This part not so much.
Well, there's so much that we can certainly talk about, even away from the world of sports, but we'll keep it locked in. Doc, stay safe. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week on the Sports Medicine Update.
You too, Jerry. Thanks.
Sports 60.
So, about a month ago, the five of us made a protest in Arlington Heights downtown, and since then we've been reached out by organizers of Mundelein, Vernon Hills, Wheeling, and a few others, and we all got together. So there's 15 of us who had meetings for the past 1 month to organize all of this. We brought in vendors that are Black-owned businesses, and we have voter registration. We have Black artists and singers and musicians here also. COVID testing as well. And then we also addressed, we put this protest in Wheeling because there's a lot of gentrification going on right now, and we had some issues that were posted about the Wheeling police. And we wanted to address like the cops that work with them and call them out and hold them accountable. So that was our goal for specific demands for this protest, was towards Wheeling. Overall, in the future, we really want to make sure that we hold our suburbs accountable just as much as we're holding our cities, and how protests are really strong and evident there, and we want to keep that momentum going on in the suburbs also.
When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? All right, next up, we gonna say a local person's name. I say, what's his name? Y'all say Justice Howe. One day on the red. What's his name? What's his name? What's his name? What's his name? Will they be able to sit down at the table of brotherhood? I have a dream. What's his name? One day. What's his name? Even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with injustice. What's his name? Sweltering with the heat of oppression. What's his name? Be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. What are you laughing at? This ain't funny. My four little children one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I am a dream today. Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down! I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its governor